Good morning and happy game day to you. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. We are happy to have you here. Lucas is here. Bert is still back there. We are clearing the vermin from the premises as soon as humanly possible. He told me that when I walked in this morning that there were rats in the studio. That's how I was greeted.
Excuse me?
Have you seen any back there?
Wait, there's like in the studio?
Well, he was making jokes about there being rat excrement because, that's not obviously something that I'm going to want anything to do with. So I don't know that he saw an actual rat. I think he's just making stuff up. That or he had a bathroom accident himself and came in here to relieve himself. Now, I think that he's got more respect for the morning show than that, but I don't know. He's probably at a level of comfort where he's talked about wiping with his hands and things of that nature between the hours of 6 to 10 a.m. We're not going to do that. We've got Titans preseason action, home game, Nissan Stadium. See you there tonight. Make sure you're drinking a lot of water, a lot of Gatorade, a lot of fluids. It stands to be right now, if the weather projections and weather predictions hold, it stands to be the hottest game on record at Nissan Stadium, eclipsing that god-awful Colts game from a couple of years ago where the field literally caught on fire due to a pyrotechnics incident. Tonight, 95 feels like 107. And if you're in the sun, going to feel worse than that. So again, hydrate, sunscreen, all of these things. Will they let them wear the goofy little rainbow umbrella hats into Nissan? Probably not. I don't think so.
Like fans?
Yeah. I don't imagine that's something that's cleared. If we can't walk in there with umbrellas when it's raining, even as people with press credentials, I can't imagine they're letting umbrellas and things like that into Nissan Stadium. Whatever you can do to shade yourself from the brutal rays of the sun out there today, do so accordingly. But we are going to take your phone calls, of course, 615-737-1045. That's the number. You know it. You can call it at any point. You can jump in the F&M Bank chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch, where people like Anthony Carchi write, I don't understand how they get away with being this late to their own show.
Who, us?
Yeah. I was here today. I was early today. I got my hair cut 20 minutes ago, and I still was earlier than I usually am today.
Well, were we late?
No, I don't think so. But that's just the comment that was there waiting for me. So I assume because we didn't start at 10 a.m. that there was some concern.
Out of our control.
It's indeed. Blame the morning show. Of course, it's never our responsibility. Couldn't be us. Can we talk about a little bit of preseason football last night, though? Because quarterbacks are going to be the discussion. And we had a pretty extensive conversation yesterday about playing Ryan Tannehill specifically in the preseason. Now, this morning, when I was just going through some things at TennesseeTitans.com, I saw Jim Wyatt's 6 things to watch. He's always got 6. Never less, never more. Always 6. 6 things to watch at any given point about the Tennessee Titans. But this was specific to tonight's preseason finale. And in that article that the team just retweeted about 20 minutes ago, Jimmy said that he's got a hunch that Ryan Tannehill is going to play a series or 2 tonight.
Oh, I bet you were enraged.
Enraged?
Yes. Apoplectic, even. How play a starting quarterback in the preseason? What? Insanity.
I don't love it. I mean,
try and get down some rhythm of operation with a new play caller and a different voice in your head and a totally different first-team offensive line at game speed? That's ludicrous.
I just don't think it's that important. But okay, whatever. Let go and let God. Now, I happen to think that his hunch has some credibility. So we will see how much playtime Ryan Tannehill would receive if he is out there, if Jimmy's hunch is correct. But I do think that it is trending in that direction, if not already decided upon. Now, the counter is, of course, one of many that I made yesterday. I was throwing all kinds of things at Lucas to justify why I didn't like starters playing in the preseason. Still not crazy about it. The biggest counter, though, is their quarterback situation. Because I know what Ryan Tannehill is. I honestly know what Malik Willis is. If I had my way, I'd see 4 quarters of Will Levis tonight. Now, the wrench in that is he totally healthy.
Levis.
Yes. Because if he's not totally healthy, then there's probably not a lot of good reason to toss him out there. The other two are. Would it hinder his development or progress so much for him to have to play through a little something? No. And it's not like he's going to, I don't think there's going to be such a great opportunity for him to try and make a last grasp at quarterback 2 to start the season. That may change as the season wears on, and provided that all three of them make it. But if I had my way, I'd see 4 quarters of Will Levis tonight because he's the biggest unknown on the roster. He's the biggest thing that I am uncertain about in the quarterback room. I think I know what Malik Willis is right now. He's a very, very still raw product that is probably not going to put you in the best position to succeed should you have to play him in the regular season. Not that he's not improved, but that he's still got a considerable way, if Minnesota was any indication, got a pretty good ways to go. So with that, if Levis is not completely healthy, then I get the justification a little more, because if you're not going to see the rookie, and you've probably seen enough of Malik for the time being, like not so much that you have to go out there and give him a full 4 again, then all right, fine. If you want to give the starters a go, give them a go. And we'll see if Jimmy's hunch is more concrete, but I do think that things are trending that direction.
Did you see that the mystery lower body injury was leaked?
Quad?
By Will Levis? Yes.
Oh, did he?
Well, he didn't leak it, but Liam Cohen, in a press conference setting, the Kentucky offensive coordinator, mentioned that in talking to Will Levis, Levis told him it was a quad injury. So, through another party, the mystery lower body injury is out.
Mike, why is it such a state secret? We can see the wrap on his quad. Like, just say quad. It's okay. You don't have to give us a timetable.
At least it's not the toe.
The toe would have been like...
That would have been concerning.
It would have been vastly more concerning because if you're unfamiliar, that was the injury that most plagued him in 2022, which is most credited, that alongside a much less talented roster from Kentucky in 2022 than was in 2021. A lot of that, though, the injury that he played through that apparently he probably shouldn't have, is what they are kind of grading Will Levis on a 2022 curve with. So at that point, if the quad is not in such a place where it doesn't make sense, you feel you might aggravate it. I know you can't bubble wrap them. They're football players. Something's going to happen to them at some point should they have to play. But if it's unnecessary, or unless it's, I do think it's more necessary than not to get a feel for the rookie quarterback. And if he is 90% of Will Levis, then I would probably lean in that direction, but it's not my decision to make. And so, sounds like probably see the starting offense, at least the starting offensive line and starting quarterback for a drive or two. And then then Malik Willis and Will Levis TBD. But if he was available, I would think that they would err more on the side of let the two young guys play. But, we'll see how things play out this evening. Few short hours away. You excited?
Yes, I am excited for the preseason to be over because that means the regular season is officially around the corner. I'm excited.
It means that college football is here, is what you're actually trying to say.
I'm excited for college football to be live and in action on Saturday, even if it is a little bit across the pond. Yes, it is here. This week leading into Labor Day weekend is the best time of year. It might be one of the best weeks of the calendar year.
Well, again, if you're going out there, make sure that if you're going out there at any point this weekend, if you're attending the Vanderbilt game, if you're out there at the Titans game tonight, make sure that you're properly taking care of yourself. Well, it sounds like the weather may turn. I saw Nashville Severe Weather was saying something about thunderstorms possible on Saturday, so something to keep an eye out because I know next week is going to be much more palatable as far as air temperature is concerned. All right, so 615-737-1045 is the number. Which Titans player do you think is playing for their preseason lives tonight? We're going to talk about that throughout the course of the day. Coming up next, though, there were preseason quarterbacks out there. Anthony Richardson was one that we got a pretty good sample size of. But also on the field were two quarterbacks who were drafted before Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett and Desmond Ridder. How is Malik Willis's development going with the context of the other two? We're going to talk about that coming up next. You're welcome to jump in on the discussion. Don't forget, Coach Mack joins us at 11:20. We got Friday Fire presented by Central Barbecue later as well, too. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
So this is a small bird, too, for someone
right.
that's never seen a Bob White before. It's this little round softball.
That's right. Yeah, I wouldn't. They're not much bigger than my fist. They've got little legs, but they're a ground nesting, ground dwelling bird. If they never have to fly in their life, they wouldn't. Right? They just do that to get away from hawks and owls for the most part, or hunters. What they need is largely herbaceous plant communities. Right? So they need wildflowers. They need a small proportion of grasses. I don't need vast grasslands, right? I need stuff that most people would call weeds. Those are providing good brood cover, good nesting cover, a lot of insects, right? That's what chicks need to develop early.
Bridgestone Firestone is a quail focus or focal area. So tell us a little bit why.
Yeah, it's largely because there are very few places that have wild quail in the state of Tennessee anymore. And there's dozens of different factors that lead into that, right? Everybody wants to jump right to predators, but it's a habitat issue, right? Mm-hmm. It's a landscape change, whether we're talking about development or whether we're talking about fire not being on the landscape anymore, or fields and young forests progressing into closed canopy forest, right? So the farm, just by nature of it being an open landscape that's been maintained that way, has held on to some birds. And compared to most other places in the state, we're one of the very few. On top of that, the potential for growing that population, it's higher here than just about anywhere else.
Chicks dig the long ball. It's a great line. Titans Radio 500 is going to be an exciting thing to have a part of this 25th season. I know that a lot of you guys are getting involved online. I know the team is asking you to submit your favorite memories of the last 25 years, or this is the 25th season, but the last 24 years, I guess, last 24 seasons of Titans football. Been a cool thing to kind of keep track of. I know Mike Keith is busting his butt, man, out here putting together a lot of cool features, a lot of digital content for you guys. I know they're doing a lot of stuff on the official Titans podcast. It's not like Mike doesn't work hard anyway, but he has gone above and beyond this year to really help that organization celebrate its 25th year. It's cool to see how much it means to him. And it's not like you don't know how much it means to him. You can hear it in his voice every time he does a game when he's losing his mind in the preseason like it's a week 18 winning in situation against Jacksonville. Like there's no difference in Mike Keith, which is what makes him the man. But I know he's been doing a lot. I love that he's on Instagram now. You follow Mike on Instagram?
Oh, yeah. At 10Voice on Instagram and on Twitter now.
Is he on Twitter? Oh.
Yes.
Now, play-by-play people on Twitter, I feel like that would be your living hell.
What do you mean?
Just because of, like, we get critical comments from time to time. I feel like in the business of play-by-play, you are lending yourself more to people critiquing how it is that you do the game. I would not invite that into my life if I was a play-by-play broadcaster.
But you invite it into your life as a talk show host. So
but I don't care what they think. It's not.
Sure. Okay, so the same can apply as a broadcaster.
Sure. I just think it's a little more personal. Like, if they're saying something nasty to me on Twitter, it's probably because of me. Like, it's not, not because of the job that we do. Also, this is not a professional setting. Like, I just show up, I talk, I literally get here a minute before the show starts. And if they want to be critical, they're probably right.
I mean, what's the majority of critiques that a play-by-play broadcaster would get, right? Like, what? Just off the top of your head, if somebody is real angry at what a network play-by-play guy is saying, what's he probably angry about?
That you're rooting for the other team. You're rooting for the other team.
Exactly. Those are very easy to dismiss.
Well, and also you're not.
People aren't chiming in on social media and be like, "Hey, you didn't say the time and score enough here in the second quarter. Gonna need you to work on that." Like actual constructive criticism. Yeah. No, it's why do you hate my team?
Right. That's because they don't know the actual constructive criticism what it is to do your jobs as play-by-play professionals. Nor do I as a talk show host. Like I wouldn't last a second. We tried doing it just bare bones minimum at practice, and that's all the description that I can offer, and I botched it. So would not put me in the booth for anything. But anyway, looking forward to hearing Mike and Mac on the call at home tonight at Nissan Stadium. Now, there was preseason action last night. Amazon Prime had a game, and the NFL Network had a game. The NFL Network game was horrendous. How long did you stick with Steelers-Falcons before you pivoted to Anthony Richardson versus the Eagles?
I watched a little bit of Kenny Pickett, but I was much more interested in Anthony Richardson last night. Seen a good bit of Kenny Pickett this preseason. He's played in every game.
He has. He has played more than the average starting quarterback has, though there have been a fair amount of starting quarterbacks that have played. And again, if you're just now joining us, Jimmy Wyatt has written in his 6 things to watch tonight a hunch that Ryan Tannehill sees some action. So something to keep an eye on there. I think that with Richardson, I got to him late. I saw the first 2 drives that I missed live this morning. Now, he wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Again, a lot of improvement necessary for this player. And I'm sure, as Lucas has talked about before in the season, that he's going to have some really, really bad moments. He's also going to have some things that shock you with how well he's able to showcase his athletic ability at this level.
Some of that last night.
I'm just going to say, not only did you get some of that last night, but did he come across as more poised for you? Got about 33 snaps in the game. Like I said, wasn't always the desired result. Like he didn't go out there and what was Kenny Pickett to start the game? Like 10 for 10, did you say?
Oh, last night?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd have to look at his numbers. Pickett finished the night 4 for 4. He was 4 for 4.
I'm sorry. There was a
for
game
86 yards
when Kenny I think had like a 10 for 10 performance.
No, the 10 for 10 I kept bringing up was Shane Bouchel coming in for Pat Mahomes last weekend for the Chiefs and just throwing dimes.
Big Shane Bouchel guy. Is he your DeMarcus Robinson?
Where did DeMarcus Robinson end up?
I don't know.
He ended up on
Where did he ended it up? I don't know where he ended it up.
He ended it up on the Rams. He is a Ram.
So are you a Ram fan now?
Big Ram guy.
It's so odd, the DeMarcus Robinson obsession by you all offseason long. You got DeAndre Hopkins. Are you just satisfied?
We're really scraping the bottom of the barrel of free agent wide receivers until D-Hop got here.
So, with that being said, Richardson looked more poised. I thought he executed sufficiently. He had a nice scramble on 3rd and 15 that you thought might be a conversion. Quentin Nelson got called for a hold that negated it. That is something that he's gonna have to learn, right? That he can't scramble around back there for a period of time such that the offensive line is going to get called for a hold, because some of that is going to happen when you have quarterbacks who are still feeling things out, right? Who are trying to. Mike Vrabel mentioned Malik Willis running more decisively against Minnesota, taking off through the front of the pocket as opposed to dipping out of the back, right? Those kind of things. Richardson has to refine a lot, but he's giving you reason to believe that there is a lot of promise there. And I guess that was always the case. Promise has never been the question. It's whether he can put it together in a structure and operate within the timing and structure necessary to play in an NFL offense.
He did lead them in rushing last night with 5 carries for 38 yards, despite that one scramble getting called back. And I feel like that may be the case by the end of the regular season when you look at the Colts' lead rushers, because I don't know what running backs are going to stake a claim to that.
I think Jonathan Taylor's there on Tuesday. They have until Tuesday to get that deal done. That's not enough time.
You think Jonathan Taylor plays for the Colts this season?
I think he plays for the. I'm more inclined to believe he plays for the Colts than another team.
Really?
I think and I know that the Dolphins and the Colts were apparently having some conversations about the structure of what that might look like. It's got to materialize by Tuesday. It doesn't mean that can't happen. It doesn't mean it can't ramp up the pressure. But I don't think he's got the leverage that he thinks Miami doesn't need him. Right? Would they be an infinitely better offense with Jonathan Taylor than with Raheem Mostert? Yes. But it's not like Mike McDaniel it's not like the Dolphins organization, who already, by the way, if you looked at their draft capital, they're already without a 3rd and a 4th. So it's not like they have a lot of leverage or bargaining chips with which to get in the Jonathan Taylor conversation. If they didn't want to give up a 1st, and if they wanted to put together a package that was commensurate, they're kind of already hamstrung that way, because their first couple of day 3 picks are gone. Or I guess a day 2 pick and a day 3 pick. But it's not just about Richardson, because the other quarterbacks that were worth watching last night, obviously Kenny Pickett, because he played a bunch. And it brings up the discussion around Malik Willis and how we feel about him at this point in time. Now, you heard from Greg Cosell yesterday. I know Cosell was also on 3HL. I'm sure that was a portion of their discussion when he joins them on a weekly basis. And, of course, we do the podcast every week with Greg. But Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, and Desmond Ridder. Now, those were Pickett, Ridder, Willis was the order that the quarterbacks went. Now, with Atlanta, Ridder didn't play last night. Did you have the sound on of that game at all? Because they were talking an awful lot about Logan Woodside doing everything humanly possible to make this roster.
Yeah, and he had a nice night.
Do you think there's any part of them that regrets letting Logan Woodside go as a backup quarterback?
Titans? Great question.
He looks, it's preseason, I know, but he looks just fine with Arthur. I have to think no, because he was a draft pick and you got him in the 3rd round, and if it pans out, it's the Levis argument and then some, right?
Yeah.
You didn't spend high draft capital on a premium position with potential to pan out.
And what you've done at quarterback is with an eye for the future. Logan Woodside being on the roster would not be an eye for the future. It would just be to have a floor of a backup quarterback if things just do not work with Malik Willis or Will Levis. But I think the investment in the future at the quarterback position, knowing Ryan Tannehill is your starter this year, is worth parting ways with Logan Woodside 100%.
But if Tannehill gets hurt, you don't trust either of them.
You
expect the Levis rookie experience to look closer to Malik than it does to Who would I hold up it as an example, I guess, as it does to maybe C.J. Stroud, right? We are anticipating C.J. Stroud being able to operate at a higher level out of the gate than is Will Levis.
Yeah, but I wonder if Woodside even makes that roster.
No, I don't think he does with Taylor Heineke.
Taylor Heineke be ahead of him.
I would think. But, it's you always have those kind of thoughts when a player moves on and I won't say has success, but is viable elsewhere. Malik last year was not viable. Logan Woodside might have been. I don't know that it stops a 7-game slide the way that it did, but just something that occurred to me while I was listening to the Atlanta Falcons broadcast team debating the merits of Logan Woodside and everything he's done last year.
He was 24 of 31 for 196 yards.
So Ritter didn't play. Pickett did. Pickett's played in all 3 of the preseason games. Malik Willis figures to as well. Now it seems, and I know we put it on a poll, and the only 2 options given were Willis and Pickett, right?
Yeah.
You didn't include Ritter?
Did not include Ritter.
Any reason why?
Did we say to include Ritter?
Yes.
I'll have to check the tape.
Well, we can't do that on a phone call between you and me.
Shame.
Because I said, they're all 3 in the same draft class. We don't really talk about them that way. Perhaps we should have them as options. And then I looked at my mentions and they weren't options. And I was getting dragged because we put Pickett next to Willis.
You got to include Ritter in that. Bad job by
I hate you.
Oversight.
I truly hate you. Anyway, so the 3 of them, even if they're not included in your poll options at Buck Rising on Twitter or X or whatever the bleep you want to call it, where is Willis relative to the other 2? Because you made a good point yesterday. Do you remember what it was about Willis and the discussion around him? That we talk about him in much softer terms.
That maybe we're grading Malik on a curve, right? Like if you wiped away all the data from last year, would we be as impressed with Malik in 2023 as we are considering, just because he has come really far from where he was in 2022? So maybe are we grading on that sort of curve, whereas then you listen to Greg Cosell, who does not have 2022 in mind whatsoever, and is just looking at, is this a viable option right here and right now?
Yeah. And the answer is no from Greg. Like the answer is if you have to put him out there, it'd probably look a lot like it did last year, even though, he has clearly made strides. The question is how much more can he accomplish in one game? I'm willing to accept the idea that the progress that Malik Willis has made is getting ready to plateau. Not that he can't learn more, not that he can't gain more from meeting rooms and things like that, not that he can't be of value as a scout team quarterback, because that's what the backup quarterback figures to be, but that the progress that he'll be able to make because of live game reps or even substantial practice reps basically dries up after Tuesday.
If Will were to play tonight, what kind of performance would he need for us to go into roster cut day saying that, okay, maybe they're willing to make that jump?
I really just think he has
to.
I really just think he has to see things better. It's the fact that Malik got discombobulated in Minnesota against a defense that's not really scheming him, and you saw a lot of breakdowns. You saw a lot of throws. Mike mentioned him being more decisive as a runner, but the comments that were made before that were about not loving the decision making in a couple of different moments. The lack of clarity with Malik is causing him to pass up throws. Now, he can be a playmaker with his legs, but that can't be. He can't Justin Fields this thing the way that did you bring that up yesterday?
That's what I said about Anthony Richardson without Jonathan Taylor. He would just be Justin Fields and get out there.
He can't expect to go out there and do that within the scope of their offense. There's just too many ways that they need to find to win, and it's too efficient. If they're scheming him layup throws, then he has to hit the layup throws like the NWI crosser that he missed, right? And that's just one example, one glaring example of throws that he passed up, others that he passed up to just take off and run. And listen, I know he had 91 yards. I know they had 281 on the ground. I know the ground game looked great. And you're saying, okay, fine, just don't let him throw the ball. Play it like the second half of the Houston game on the road. And was that the first start, him at Houston?
Yes.
Yeah. Where
they just ran it like crazy.
One passing attempt in the second half that wasn't completed.
Yeah.
So, like, with Willis, I think that has flatlined. What we don't know is how much can Levis look different, if at all. And if it's not any different than it was in Chicago, then that's your answer, right?
Yeah, just operational. Like Malik could have some mind-bending plays tonight where he's scrambling around for a 40-yard gain and has one dime down the sideline. But if Will Levis looks better operationally, then it would be Point Levis for the backup quarterback spot, right?
I don't even think, I think Malik, I don't think he's perfect operationally, but I think there's enough of a grasp on the operation. My biggest criticism, or the criticism that you hear smarter people than you and I talk about, football people like Cosell, saying he's not seeing things. You remember in the can we pull that up quickly? Do you have that handy? Just because there's a part of it where Greg says I'd expect him to be able to do these things by now, but I'm not there, right? Speaking specifically about what you just alluded to. Greg doesn't care about what he did in 2022. Greg wants to know if this guy can play quarterback as an NFL starter right now. And you'll hear, I think Greg was pretty diplomatic in the way that he broke this down. But Greg basically said, yeah, he's not seeing things.
And in some ways, Buck, it's a perfect example of why the preseason is the preseason and why it's hard to overreact. I mean, obviously the week before, and I spoke about it, all I do, as you know, is react to what the tape shows. I don't make a judgment as to what a guy's career is going to be, particularly a young player. Obviously the week before, Malik Willis clearly looked much more comfortable as a player, just in everything he did. This week, he did not. Now, again, this is not going to be a judgment about what Malik Willis is going to be, next week, the week after, or 5 years down the road. But this particular week, he did not look comfortable. He did not see things clearly. He turned down a number of throws that were there. Those were the throws to make based on the route concept versus the coverage, and he turned those throws down. He did not throw the ball when he had to make those throws. And then there were also some inaccurate throws. I mean, I'm sure Titans fans all remember that shot play on the third possession, play action boot. It was a post deep over combination, and he had Westbrook-Ahini wide open on the over route. He had unnecessary movement, which made him hurry himself and be late, and he ended up throwing the ball at Westbrook-Ahini's feet. Those are throws you cannot miss. You don't get those kinds of opportunities that often for a big play. So, this was just a game where you could tell he just, for whatever reason, he did not see things clearly. I could tell by looking at his head that he just was not looking in the right place a lot. Again, as I always say, I never know the reason. He'd have to tell you, and he's not going to, nor is the coach, nor should they. But he was not a comfortable player in this particular game.
So it's a pretty thorough analysis of where Malik devolved from Chicago to Minnesota, that he was infinitely more comfortable in week one of the preseason than he was in week two. Now, there may be other reasons for that, and like Greg said, Malik's only going to be able to tell us so much. Vrabel's only going to want to say so much beyond saying, yeah, didn't love the decision-making in certain moments, thought there was signs of growth, thought he was a more decisive runner, all these things. But I think that they have to know right now, okay, he's still not in a place where we need him to be. Do you think he's still in danger of missing the cut?
Well, that was what my question was. Like, how much would Will have to do tonight? First, he would have to play, which we don't know if that's going to be the case. If Will doesn't play tonight, Titans are keeping 3, right? We would pretty safely assume.
Yeah.
Like, anything could happen, but we'd be fairly shocked if the Titans cut Malik Willis if Will Levis just didn't play tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my biggest question. What would Will have to show tonight if he plays for the Titans to end up with 2 quarterbacks on the 53? Because we know Levis getting cut is just not an option.
No.
Like, how much better would it have to be?
What if they? Because this was something. So I did the 615 Sessions podcast yesterday with Teresa, and Teresa brought up the idea of what if they cut Willis and brought in a vet, like brought in somebody who, like Dobbsed it, but early as opposed to late. Just kind of punt on the idea of, all right, if something happens, God forbid, like, this is not in a place where it can get done. Should that be completely off the table? Because it's not.
Still keep 3.
Keep 3, keep Levis, but also cut Willis in favor of somebody more capable of being an NFL starting quarterback right now.
It's an interesting thought.
It's definitely an option that I'd put at a lower percentage chance because I just think the value of Malik on a rookie contract exceeds that idea. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, especially when you just hear the way that Greg, because you know if Greg is seeing it, that the coaching staff has an even more intimate knowledge of the places that Malik isn't progressing. Not that he hasn't made progress, but is it sufficient? 615-737-1045. That's the number. The SEC stat of the day is next. We got week 0 action right around the corner. You don't even have to look any further than just down the street at West End. Vandy hosting Hawaii. I know Clark Lee has been talking about his excitement for it all week long. I heard he was on 3HL this week, so you can get your Vanderbilt preview there. What are we looking at in this week's SEC Stat of the Day? Since there is...
Let's talk about sex, baby.
It's just the regular song.
No. Now we have to do it. Now we don't get to do the SEC stat. This is the actual song.
Yeah, what?
No.
It's the same file. I've always pulled up what just happened.
That's hilarious. I hope he overwrote that on you on purpose.
What in the world?
Because now I don't want to do the SEC stat of the day. Now I want to do the sex stat of the day.
Oh, my goodness. Anyway.
What's the sex stat of the day?
The SEC...
We just heard an Adam and Eve commercial. Go ahead.
Stat of the day.
Go ahead.
I need to look into that.
Why not?
That is hilarious.
What are you scared of?
Week 0. Week 0 is here. Football.
Yell
we made
louder.
it.
Football?
We made it, everybody.
Football?
Football.
It's just the unhinged football in the background that gets me every time.
Oh, so Vanderbilt hosts Hawaii tomorrow in a First Bank Stadium that is still being worked on, but will be able to host games, contrary to fake Twitter accounts spreading fake news that Vanderbilt will be playing at Pearl Cone High School this year.
Yeah, not happening.
And you know what? I get it. It's low-hanging fruit. Vanderbilt, sometimes it's easy to make Vanderbilt the butt of jokes. But
I'm sorry. Who does that more than you?
I have been, a lot of people, but I have been guilty of it in the past.
Week, I would have absolutely drug you in front of him.
I have been guilty of it in the past.
You were literally this week.
I have not. Have I poked fun at Vanderbilt for having construction done on their stadium?
Yeah, I think you did.
No, I didn't.
When we talked about this fake news story the first time, I'm pretty sure you did.
I don't think I did.
I think there's tape.
I think it is low-hanging fruit because we cannot sit here and point fingers at Vanderbilt and yell at them and make fun of them for having subpar facilities.
We do not. You do.
And then turn around and be upset that they are trying to fix that. And construction takes a long time.
Yes.
It doesn't take 3 months to renovate a stadium. So, yes, I'm not going to be here to make fun of Vanderbilt for trying to better their facilities. There is a long-term plan there. I am here to talk about the SEC stat of the day, which is the number 8.7. That is the yards per pass attempt allowed by Vanderbilt in 2022. That was last in the SEC. So when we look at Vanderbilt's ability to make a bowl game this year, because that feels like a very obvious next step for Clark Lee in this program, there's optimism, I think, with A.J. Swan at quarterback and the arm talent that he showed in flashes in 2022. Will Shepard leads what is an experienced wide receiver core. They return the core group of the offensive line. But something that absolutely killed Vanderbilt in 2022 was allowing big plays on defense, especially in the passing game. So head coach Clark Lee and defensive coordinator Nick Howe have a big challenge in front of them to better that phase of this Vanderbilt football team. Honestly, I'm not terribly optimistic about this secondary, but I think this Vanderbilt pass rush could really raise the floor of this defense. They get back Miles Capers in 2023. Tore his ACL in 2022. Big prospect, going to come in, and there's some size across this Vanderbilt front because with Capers out last year, that forced Darren Agu, I hope I'm saying his name correctly, I believe that's how you say it.
Probably not.
Darren Agu to play as a true freshman. This is a guy that had 6'6", 240, has all the intangibles, offered by Alabama, Tennessee, Michigan, Penn State, was a Notre Dame commit before flipping to Vanderbilt and coming to play on West End, got kind of thrown into the fire as a true freshman, and now he's got that experience under his belt going into his sophomore year with Miles Capers back and healthy with that Vandy front. Taking pressure off the secondary is going to be huge for Vanderbilt in 2023. Agu's got an interesting background, by the way, born in Ireland, raised in London, and then he comes over and plays for Vanderbilt. So where is the path to a bowl game for Vanderbilt? Let's try and count the wins, shall we?
You
tell
did this
me.
last year.
You tell me.
We were dead wrong last year.
What I can't remember what we ended up saying. Vanderbilt
We didn't have them winning a single SEC game, and they won 2.
They won 2. They finished 5-7. They beat Florida. They beat Kentucky. So Hawaii. I'm gonna throw them at you. You tell me. Win, loss, or toss up.
Win.
That's 1. Alabama A&M.
Win.
Wake Forest on the road.
Ooh, what do I know about Wake Forest?
Yeah,
this
it's
year?
a tough one. I think that's more of a toss up than anything.
So I can say toss up?
Yeah,
I will
think
say toss up Wake Forest.
UNLV.
That should be a win.
You should be able to win that game. You should be able to. You got to travel to Vegas. Kentucky at home.
Loss.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Not as tough as it was last year.
Really?
No, not. Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. Not without knowing what would happen to Kentucky. Like, it was easy last year to say that Kentucky would have beaten Vanderbilt. I think Liam Cohen and Devin O'Leary. So that's in October, mid-October,
September 23rd, at First Bank Stadium.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's a loss for Vanderbilt.
I think Kentucky is a tougher out in 2023 than it was in 2022.
Yeah.
Levis dealing with injuries, the turnover at offensive coordinator.
Devin Leary is not the picture of health, but
yeah, Devin Leary comes in. There's a lot of optimism. Barryon Brown taking a step as a sophomore. Liam Cohen is back calling plays on offense. There's a lot of optimism in Kentucky about what they can do on that offense behind that offensive line. That's a tough one. So we've got 3. Vanderbilt hosts Missouri September 30th. That's a winnable game for Vanderbilt. That should be a winnable game for Vanderbilt at home against a Missouri team that has a lot to prove on offense this year. This is kind of put up or shut up a little bit for Eli Drinkwitz, who is making splashes in recruiting, but has yet to, coming in as an offensive mind, establish a true consistent starter at quarterback in Missouri. Been a lot of rotation in that quarterback room for a guy in Eli Drinkwitz that came in as an offensive mind who is ceding play calling duties this year and hiring an offensive coordinator.
For all the reasons that you've just tried to sell me on it, not tried to sell me on it, I think effectively, but I would say that there's going to be a game in there that they have no business losing, and Missouri feels like one that they would drop.
Vanderbilt?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I'm tossing one in there that I think that they should be able to win, and it seems like you are confident in Vanderbilt's ability to win. They may still go on to win that game, but like there's going to be somewhere in there where Vandy looks like they should be able to handle an opponent and then gives up a game that they probably have no business.
At Florida, October 7th. A win in the Swamp would be massive for this program. Huge.
Yeah, and I don't trust them at all.
Yeah, I think it's a reverse with Florida as it is for Kentucky, that I wonder if Florida is...
They're going to win more than 6 games. Won't they?
Can you say that with any degree of confidence?
No, I guess not.
I don't know that you can.
Okay.
I really think it's about 2024
yeah, but it's
for Billy
at
Napier.
home. That's a win for Florida.
It's hard to win in the Swamp.
Yeah.
You host Georgia October 14th. You travel to Ole Miss October 28th. You host Auburn November 4th. Travel to South Carolina November 11th. Travel to Tennessee to finish out the regular season. Really tough backstretch for Vanderbilt in those last 5 games. So
I'll give them Ole Miss.
when you're looking, a win at Ole Miss.
I'll give them Ole Miss.
But the swing games, those winnable swing games for Vanderbilt that will determine if they go bowling are Missouri, Kentucky at home, at Florida, and at Wake Forest. Feels like if you can win 3 of those, and we'll throw at Ole Miss in there as well, at South Carolina, then you can go 6-6. You've got a shot to go bowling here and take a significant step as a program.
Do we think Vanderbilt can win 6 games?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see. Like, truly, I know we poke fun sometimes, but
stop saying we.
You
don't get to drag me
I'm
into
constantly
this.
trying to get you away from it. It's low hanging fruit. It's cheap, and you need to stop doing it.
You are disgusting.
I do think A.J. Swan is an intriguing talent at quarterback.
The few Vanderbilt fans who are still listening to this radio station because of your unadulterated bias against them and your cheap shots against them on a regular basis
take cheap shots against them.
Are screaming fraud.
By the way, the other interesting Week 0 matchup, you have USC playing San Jose State if you want to tune in and watch Caleb
Don't
Williams.
talk to me about this Notre Dame game.
Navy, Notre Dame, and Ireland. I only bring it up, a 1:30 kickoff, I think some funny geopolitical vibes here as we send a U.S. military institution to Ireland to play the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
We're sending messages. Don't get cute, Ireland. We got the Navy right here. They're parked out back. Try something. I want Notre Dame to lose that game in Ireland.
It was close last year.
As a Notre Dame fan, quote unquote.
Yeah, okay.
I want Notre Dame to lose that game. I think it is laugh out loud funny. Laugh out loud funny, the idea of Notre Dame making all this big deal about, what is it? It's the Aer Lingus Bowl or something like that, the airline over there. I would love the idea of everybody going all the way out of their way. Will Ferrell traveling to Ireland because Notre Dame is playing Navy. I want Notre Dame to lose. I think that's the comedically best outcome out of all of this. Second hour, let's talk about what the Texans are doing. They traded for a tackle yesterday that I had been interested in for the Titans. They're making a lot of curious moves, and I think there's a discussion to be had about their status in the AFC South. We'll do that coming up next. Coach Mack will join us at 11:20. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
It is 11:02. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. The Titans 2023 preseason wraps up tonight at Nissan Stadium, hosting the New England Patriots. Titans Countdown hits the air at 6 p.m. It is a 7 p.m. kickoff with Mike Keith, Coach Mack, and the rest of the Titans radio crew. The 2023 college football season kicks off on Saturday. It is week 0. Vanderbilt hosting Hawaii for a 6:30 kickoff. Notre Dame and Navy will face off in Ireland. That game starting at 1:30. Also Saturday night, Nashville Soccer Club jumps back into MLS regular season play at Atlanta United. Kickoff at Mercedes-Benz Stadium is set for 6:30. Pregame coverage right here on The Zone starts at 6. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second hour underway. Welcome in. Welcome back. If you've been spending your time with us, vibes are high on this Friday. Not just because it's Friday, it's game day. Titans got a game tonight. Lucas and I are both going to be there in our various Titans radio broadcast capacities. Looking forward to seeing some of you guys out and about. Hydration is key. Make sure you are properly protecting yourself from the elements. It is going to be ungodly hot. So if you are in attendance, if you're tailgating specifically, maybe mix in a water. You know, you still get out there, get after it a little bit, but mix in a water from time to time. Maybe 5. Be smart. 615-737-1045, the number. Coach Mack will join us here in about 15 minutes. Always look forward to his weekly visit. He, of course, on the call tonight. But in the meantime, let's take a look at another team in the AFC South. Do you feel like we've talked about the Texans the least of the 4 teams that exist in this division? Perhaps,
Probably.
So they haven't been on par with the Jags? We haven't really done a ton of Jag stuff other than, I don't do picks, but like if we were to pick, I think we would both still favor the Jags to win the division, yeah?
It's close.
Yeah, sure, close, but like objectively, you're going to go with the better quarterback in that situation.
I think you would need to see proof of concept from this Titans offensive line before making any confident, definitive predictions about the Titans being at the top of the division.
Sure. So we don't do picks. We don't do predictions. But it is kind of curious to keep an eye on the experiment, the science experiment that is the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are a roster that I don't know anybody would notice unless, they're in your division and you're paying attention to the kind of transactions that they've made. But they keep adding offensive line talent. They signed George Fant. I don't want to say out from under the Titans. They gave him the better offer. So if the Titans would have signed George Fant out from under the Texans, that would have made more sense. But George Fant has a visit here. We know they need a starting caliber right tackle. Sounds like Fant is going to start for them on that offensive line this year. And he wanted a deal where he would be paid more like a starter. He felt here he could beat NPF out for the job even post-NPF suspension and wanted to be paid accordingly. That wasn't the case. They offered him league or vet minimum. He went on to the Texans, signed there. So yesterday, there are 3 trades that the Arizona – we talked about hardly any trades at all through this training camp and that this would typically be a week ahead of roster cuts on Tuesday, that those things might ramp up just a tad. So Cardinals, full fire sale and continuing to ship off pieces for draft parts. They not only trade for Josh Dobbs yesterday. Did you see that? Josh Dobbs is going to be one of the quarterbacks to try and make Arizona more competitive. You think he's going to start there?
I think he's got a great shot. This feels like a great opportunity for Dobbs, doesn't it?
Over Clayton Tune
and Colt McCoy.
And there's a third one.
Oh, who's the other quarterback?
He had to play last year. I can't remember his name.
McSorley?
That sounds right. Trace McSorley, I think, is in Arizona.
But yeah, he's in the mix to start there, you would think, while Kyler's coming back from the ACL.
So Dobbs is one. But this is another.
And McSorley plays for the Pats at the moment.
Okay. They traded, so we'll see him tonight.
Yeah, he was on the Cardinals last year.
Garantano?
No, Garantano's a free agent.
Okay. Anyway, so one of the trades that Arizona makes prior to the Dobbs acquisition, they send away offensive tackle Josh Jones. Now, Arizona wasn't a great offensive line last year by any stretch of the imagination. But now that Monty Austinford is the GM there, one, can clearly tell that their strategy is we're all in for Caleb Williams.
Which also makes part of what makes sense about the Dobbs connection, Monty Austinford.
So now, Josh Jones, who had 11 starts last year, goes to the Houston Texans. He's in the final year of his rookie contract. So they've added assets on the offensive line through the draft. They've locked up their 2 tackles. Excuse me. Or I guess Tyus Howard is a guard.
Well, that's the thing. Titus Howard, too. No, Howard's a tackle, right? When he was going to be the starting right tackle this year.
Where is Fant starting for them on the offensive line, if not tackle?
That's the thing. Titus Howard's hurt.
That's what it is.
Hand surgery.
Right.
So, like the Titans with, I guess, reinforcements with Nicholas Petit-Frere coming back after week 6, it's a 4 to 6 week timetable, reportedly on Titus Howard, who is having hand surgery. So they're beefing up their offensive line, not just for the short term, but it's going to pay off down the road when Howard is back and healthy as well. So they're creating some depth there. I think Titus Howard was going to be their starting right tackle. Didn't he get paid this offseason?
Yeah, he did. No, you're correct. I had forgotten that he was missing some time. He has some kind of fracture in his hand.
Yeah, he had surgery a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, we had mentioned that the other day. So all of the offensive line moves by the Houston Texans this offseason, they extended Laramie Tunsil, reset the market, 3 years, $75 million. They gave Titus Howard a new deal, 3 years, $56 million. They paid Shaq Mason, former Patriots guard, local product.
Guy. Yep.
3 years, $36 million. Traded for Josh Jones, signed George Fant, drafted Juice Scruggs, which is just a great name for a center.
Quality name.
He was their second-round pick. So they are doing everything humanly possible on nearly the anniversary of Andrew Luck's retirement because the Colts didn't put an offensive line in front of him and got that man killed for the first couple years of his career. They're trying to avoid all possible scenarios where they can put the development of C.J. Stroud at risk. Offensive line depth is near impossible to have, like quality offensive line depth. Philadelphia has done it well. They've also developed. They've found prospects like Mailata, who had not played football really at any kind of a level prior to being a draft pick. I think he was like a 7th-round draft pick. Now he's one of the most well-compensated left tackles in football. He's the reason why Andre Dillard is here. Philadelphia has done this well, but I can't think of a team whose offensive line depth that you trust. Houston seems to be putting themselves in a position to at least have something to cling to. Now, you can talk about, is the compensation worth it? They've got all manner of draft picks. They had a bunch of draft picks to work with. They created more opportunities for themselves ahead of 2024. They're not that much different than Arizona, although Arizona has clearly focused, and for obvious reasons, without Kyler Murray starting for, we'll say, a portion of the year. How soon he gets back, we'll see. Sounds like a lot more positive progress on that than you might have initially anticipated with a late-stage ACL tear. Arizona is in, all right, let's give ourselves the most ammo. If we don't have the number 1 overall pick, we're prepared to go up and get him because Caleb Williams is our guy. Houston has their guy, now doing everything around him. Offensively, they're the team that I look at as this year's Jags, where Jacksonville, extreme, right? Urban Meyer, 2-win team, Trevor Lawrence. It should have never looked that bad, but it was. They went from 2 to 9? After starting the year 2-6. I bet Houston has some struggles. I bet it's a rough go for C.J. Stroud at various points throughout the course of the year. He's a rookie quarterback, and provided that he stay healthy, he's going to see a lot of bleep that, like Sam Darnold said that one time, seeing ghosts out there. I'm sure there's going to be a time or two where C.J. Stroud is out there seeing ghosts. But I think that if you're looking for teams who are capable of making that jump, like Houston's roster intrigues me. The biggest unknown to me, Not just that they have a rookie quarterback, which is, of course, a huge variable, but the coaching staff. D'Amico Ryan's in his first year. I don't really know much about Bobby Slowick as an offensive coordinator. So, of course, the coaching staff needs to put them in a position to succeed. But I think that the roster is built with that in mind. It's just a question of whether the coaching can, bring the best out of them.
And what are they going to get out of that wide receiver group?
That's what I'm saying. Like, does that not, when you go down the list of names in the wide receiver room, of course, Brandon Cook's a Cowboy now. They traded him away.
Robert Woods.
Tank Dell.
John Mechie.
Who's making a lot of plays, who seems, health is not, not an issue for him right now. Dalton Schultz?
Dalton Schultz at tight end.
Yeah. An offensive line group that there's at least a lot of capital and investment, a lot of draft capital, a lot of straight up money poured into the offensive line group. Doesn't guarantee success, but they've at least tried to put themselves in a position to succeed. You have all of that around, I'm blanking on the name of the running back out of Florida. Dameon Pierce. All of that around Dameon Pierce, who is going to be a quality player. I think that it's a rookie quarterback is the thing that would hold me back the most, more even than the coaching staff. But I think that's a team that I look at as one who we're not expecting to make a jump. I'm not necessarily arguing for them to be a playoff team or anything like that. But I could see them going from one of the worst teams in football to 5 to 6 wins. I don't think that's untenable. We'll get Coach Mack's evaluation. He's obviously watched a lot of the preseason. He's probably paying attention to these rookie quarterbacks at great length, given that a lot of them play in the division. We'll also, of course, talk about the Titans and Patriots getting some action tonight with the man who's going to be on the call for Titans Radio. Dave McGinnis joins us next. Always good vibes to hear that music on a Friday. Always good vibes to have Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio on the line. Big preseason game finale coming up tonight. You can hear coverage starting at 4 p.m., of course, with 3HL. Titans Radio on after that. Kickoff is at 7:15. Mac, how you living on this Friday?
Doing good, Buck. Doing good. Just being sure the AC's working. Lucas told me the AC's working there in the studio, but it's smoking outside, brother.
Yes, and I know you and Mike work with the windows open. So hydration, even in the press box, Mac, hydration key tonight for you guys.
We will have the windows open tonight. We'll be right there in the elements with all the fans there at the game, and so looking forward to it. Here we go.
Now wait, you famously dress in all black outfits. Is that something that you are willing to adjust for 107 heat?
Well, I mean, there's some all black outfits you can wear that are cooler than others, so I'll be fine.
Okay. Well, I just worried about you up there, Mac. I don't want you to overheat while you're in the middle of some touchdown analysis or things like that.
It's not his first rodeo, man.
Later on. No, I know.
Yeah, if I get overheated and fall out, I hope somebody below catches us. It's not very far. It's not a very far fall in the first row.
Coach Mac passed out and crowd surfing is now the visual that's going on in my head. So hopefully that's not the scenario that plays out tonight at Nissan Stadium. Mac, there are reports that Levis is not going to be available. Malik in a full start last week. What did you make of the work that he got specifically, given a variety of different situations that he was presented with?
So I thought it was very uneven. I mean, he had some throws that he missed. He had some throws that he could have made. He also, was still able to. He's got much better pocket presence than he has in the past. He's still a work in progress. He really is. I mean, he put his athletic ability again on display, which we've all seen, but he still needs to develop as a cylinder quarterback. But coming from where he came from, I think we can all agree that he has made progress. Look, it's not an instant get. We're looking at all these various iterations of rookie quarterbacks throughout the league. And, as they're taken, it's a different world that they're living in once they get to the National Football League. So, I think he's made progress. He's still got a ways to go.
So with that being said, Mac, the security of the backup quarterback position has never been more important. I mean, it's always important, but it's never been more important than it is in this world where it's an expanded 17-game regular season. You need depth at all positions, but none more important than quarterback. Do you find him more capable of operating their passing game at this stage of his career, even with a mixed performance like we saw last week?
Yeah, he's capable of doing it, and he'll continue to develop. I mean, this is not just a one and done situation when you're looking at him or any other rookie quarterback comes in the league. I mean, you got to remember. I mean, this guy was. And of course, look, projections from draft gurus, around the country that most of them don't know whether it's pumped or stuffed. Let's be very honest, as to where he was projected to go in the first round. He never was that to anybody in the football world. He was a developmental quarterback that was taken about where everybody thought he would be. And then he knew that it was going to take time to develop. That's just what that is. Now you've got some guys taken, with the first round with multiple, look what's going on in San Francisco. They took a shot on Trey Lance and traded multiple picks for him, and it just didn't work out. That is the nature of the draft. But, again, as I say, the real world of the draft, the real world inside the football world is a lot different than it is in the fantasy leagues around the country.
That won't stop there from being fantasy football analysis mixed in with the actual football discussion, but it's why we love our visits with Coach Mac, so we can talk some actual ball. As a head coach, never easy to cut players. That's going to be the case on Tuesday for every team around the NFL. They do seem to take a lot of care in getting to know them here, Mac, and trying to develop personal relationships, which I just have to imagine makes something like that all the harder.
Yeah, well, you have to, Buck. I mean, it's still, even though it's professional sports, but you're dealing with a lot of lives, especially, the National Football League. You're dealing with a greater number of people than you are in any other professional sport. And yes, because just of what it takes to be able to just grind away at football, you're asking a lot of these guys on a daily basis. I mean, And when I say, that literally every day is an interview, that's not hyperbole. That's not exaggeration. There's an immense amount of pressure in the National Football League. I lived it for a lot of years for a player, for a coach, because every day is an interview. But that's the scrutiny that you accept when you come into this business as either a coach or a player. So you've got to trust people. You get close to them because you ask a lot out of them. And then this time of year, it was always just brutal emotionally for me. I knew I had to do it, but as an assistant coach to a coordinator to an assistant head coach and all the way to the head coach, I always made it. I talked to every player that was under my jurisdiction that I ever released, because that's important. And none of these decisions are ever easy. Some are more visible than others, but it's never easy because you just don't know. Now, the thing about it is, and if you want to look at it, from the reality side of it, there are more of them that have a chance now because of the 16-man practice squad, multiplied by 32 around the league. That is clearly evident. And then you've got two alternate leagues now as to where they at least have a chance to continue working, to maybe take a minuscule chance of getting back into the ultimate dream, which is the National Football League. But on a personal level, I never just took it as, as another number that you have to get down to. It is, it's a little wrenching at this time of the year, especially when you're telling somebody that they can't do something that they've done all their life.
Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Kickoff between the Titans and the Pats. You can hear Mike Mack, Ramon Foster, the whole crew on the call starting at 7:15 p.m. Of course, Titans countdown an hour before kickoff. With the guys who have helped themselves the most, Mac, I know there's a lot of different players on the roster that you're watching, and a lot of them who you've documented throughout the course of their preseason progress. Somebody like Mason Kinsey, they have an interesting situation given injuries at wide receiver. It feels like this might be his best opportunity to try and make an initial 53. Is that viable to you?
Well, I think it's viable. I think, because this time of year, and you said very well, Buck, a lot of it comes down to numbers and injuries at inopportune times for some people, and anytime somebody has an injury, it gives an opportunity for somebody else. That is just the nature of this beast that we're in. And so I would think that that's not out of the realm of possibility. The other thing, and for our listeners, because we've got sophisticated listeners on 104.5, I continue to be really impressed, when I go out and make talks, like I did this week, went out with a group of people, and they understand a lot about football here where we live. I mean, the fans in the South and in Nashville, they understand about football. And so you also understand this 53 that will be announced once these cuts are made are not the final 53, from now till, perpetuity throughout this season. And in fact, there'll be some decisions that will be made that guys will be released and then will be brought back, because of salary cap implications after the second week begins. And so you ask me if he would make the initial 53 if there is a possibility. I would say there'd be a possibility. It's not a given, but at this time of year, anytime there are injuries at a position where someone is on the cusp, then it always lengthens their chances, Buck. I will say that.
Yeah, it's just, and you can speak to this better than us, obviously, Mac, but the idea of a coaching staff trusting a player and that superseding, what their potential might be or talent might be, like just knowing that somebody is going to be out on the field to execute what it is that they add. And I'm not saying that that's Mason Kinsey, for example, but you brought up San Francisco earlier, and it's clear that Kyle Shanahan operates or trusts Brock Purdy to operate the way that he expects that offense to run. And I just think that can't be overemphasized enough to fans who get confused about, why coaches make the decisions that they do about personnel.
Yeah, because, it's right now, once we get through with this weekend, we're looking at 17 one-week life occurrences, which is basically what the National Football League is. I mean, you live week to week, and so you're looking at people that can give you the best chance week to week to week. And it, as I say, it's not fantasy football. It's what you're really looking at, for that preparation period for that week going into it, and who gives you the best chance to win that week. Because really, when you win a ball game, people don't really care how you won it. You just won it. And the idea is to stack those things and move to the next one. And so the people that give you the greatest chance as an aggregate number, that's who you choose week to week to week. So you're correct in that.
Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio here with us on 104.5 The Zone, presented by Two Rivers Ford.
Coach, we've seen a lot of starting quarterbacks across the league playing in the preseason. Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen. It's a long list. Mike Tomlin and the Steelers have been one of those franchises that have been trotting starters out there at multiple positions. Tomlin said today, when he was asked about playing starters in the preseason, quote, "It's difficult to box without sparring." Specifically at the quarterback position, what value do you see in getting those guys, even if it's just a couple of series in the preseason?
Well, there's some value, but I think every camp is and every head coach runs his camp individually the way he wants to. But there's value in it. I can see what Mike was saying with that. But you just got to be judicious about it. You got to see what's going on. I think I just caught a glimpse of it, because I was getting prepared for this game. But didn't Pittsburgh play quite a few of their starters, and Arthur Smith played none of his last night?
Correct.
Okay, well, I think I know, because I read this morning, Arthur said, look, we're getting our team ready our way. They get their team ready their way. Pretty much sums it up, the way this works.
Coach Dave McGinnis here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Titans and the Pats tonight at Nissan Stadium. So with that, Mac, as we kind of put a bow on the preseason and training camp experience tonight, after the results are in, the offensive line, the growth that they've made, the cohesiveness, it's clear that the coaching staff values the work that they've been able to get in these preseason opportunities. I thought it was pretty telling to talk to Vrabel after the game in Minnesota for him to say, yeah, they went 3 and out twice, and we told him, no, you're not done yet. Get out there. And thought that they responded to that well. The physicality kind of took over, and you saw that bleed into the second half in particular with them able to rush for 281 yards as a group.
That's pretty cut and dry, though, wasn't it? I mean, if you really listen to Mike Vrabel and really listen and not try to interject your thoughts while he's talking, if you just listen to him, he'll kind of tell you how it is. And that was true. I mean, that was much different than the first time, the first game where they went out there and had the extended drive and scored a touchdown. And, if you go out there and start and stop for the start of the offseason, something that everybody has been focused on, and then you lose NPF, put more focus on it. So, yeah, I mean they're trying to develop that, and they will continue to do that, in my opinion, because that's what he needs to do. He knows that. The players know that too. So he was pretty honest with what he said there.
Mac, I will see you in the booth tonight. Enjoy the home crowd, enjoy the home atmosphere, and looking forward to get back into it at Nissan Stadium.
Buck, looking forward to seeing you. Now, I know you'll have all the Gucci stuff. You'll have the fan, the handheld fan and stuff, so bring it up there and share it with me for a little bit.
I have a neck fan, Mac. You want one? I'll bring you a spare.
See, I knew it, Buck. I knew I could count on you to have the latest and greatest. Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
That's the main man, Coach Mac. He didn't want my neck fan. You think I should wear a neck fan into the press conference tonight? It is the most obnoxious, tourist thing. It's the kind of thing that you'd see from people who have done Disney World multiple times, who are out there in the elements. It's terrible.
But you're not out there in the elements.
I'm not. I'm in the press box, but I have to walk from my car to the press box.
Aren't you Egyptian?
Yeah. It's like Arizona. It's a dry heat, not this awful stuff where I feel like I just got out of the shower. This is terrible. It's literally the humidity is oppressive here. No, I will even though Cairo is situated very, very much on a body of water in the Nile and the Red Sea, there is not nearly the level. I would much rather bake in 120 dry heat than be out there in 107 and basically what is a sauna.
It's not that bad.
It's terrible. Terrible. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in the conversation. So, Will Levis not going to play.
reportedly.
According to Jeremy Fowler.
Yeah.
Ryan Tannehill, likely to play. The amount of people who are responding in one of two ways since that news broke about Levis. I'm seeing wasted draft pick. Why'd you trade up? I'm seeing get him out there, at least give him an opportunity to earn the backup quarterback job. Those are the two, both stemming from disappointment. Because I think a lot of people, you haven't had the opportunity to see him in practice. You've seen him for basically, 6 drives that he got total in Chicago?
Levis?
In a preseason game.
Yeah, the backup quarterback battle has been a little bit anticlimactic due to Levis's injury.
Giles says the media is putting zero pressure on Levis to play. I mean, I don't care if he plays tonight. It doesn't make any difference to me. What do I care if Levis plays?
Why does the media need to be putting pressure on Will Levis to play?
I don't know, maybe because they're saying it's Rand Carthon's pick. He's the GM. He's picked the future quarterback. I remind you again that it's the start of the season. No one cares about 2024 right now.
When has it ever been the media's role to put pressure on a player to play through an injury that we have no idea the extent of?
I don't know, but oftentimes my tone is bad when I take up for the media, so I figured I'd let you do it instead.
Makes no sense.
I mean, what do I care about whether Will Levis plays or not? It makes zero difference to me. The only person I am interested in the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. I'm interested in the person whose success or failure is going to dictate their season, right? And that is neither Malik Willis or Will Levis for the time being. Giles says Titans media does not care. No, I mean, why would we go there and what do you want me to do? Hammer Mike Vrabel about why Will Levis isn't playing? It's an injury. If they don't want to put him out there, it's a preseason game. What does that matter?
Just the idea of being mad at the media for not pressuring someone to play through an injury in a preseason game.
Well, listen, there are times when we are there to ask questions on behalf of a fan base. Fans want to know the answers to things that we are there to ask questions about. When we don't exhibit that same level of passion, because again, we're not there to be fans, we're not there to yell at Mike Vrabel, makes no difference. The only difference that it makes to me, whether Will Levis or Ryan Tannehill plays or Will Levis or Malik Willis plays, is what I'm going to write at the end of the day. And the questions that I'm going to ask. And the questions that we're going to ask is, Mike, was he so hurt that he couldn't play? And Mike's going to say he's unavailable. And we're going to go on with our day. And that makes zero difference in my life whatsoever. Now, you can be disappointed by that and bang on the table and say second-round pick and all these things. But, again, Ryan Tannehill's your starting quarterback. Anything beyond, any concern beyond the starting quarterback for the 2023 season is irrelevant to me. With the quarterback position, my only question about the backups is who is more capable should Tannehill go down? And right now, the answer is Willis because he's available. So Levis's place in this, it's not irrelevant. I get why you want to see him. I get that we've been at practice every day to watch him and you haven't. But to demand that Will Levis play for what? Okay.
L in the F&M Bank chat says, you all have been talking about the backup job all preseason, but now it does not matter.
Yeah, because the backup quarterback is Malik Willis because the other guy's hurt and isn't playing. It's done. It's decided. Yeah, it's anticlimactic. We've been talking about it all season, and the guy missed a week and a half and can't play in 2 preseason games, and now the other guy's going to win the backup job. There's your backup quarterback discussion. Aren't you glad we did that for a whole 6 months?
I said it's been anticlimactic. Obviously, we would have liked to see Will Levis playing in preseason games number 2 and 3. That would have been the ideal scenario to gather as much information as possible, but he's hurt. What are you going to do? If he's hurt and he can't play, he's hurt and he can't play.
Well, there's also conspiracy being fronted in the chat that Levis is not actually hurt and is being held out for reasons that they can sneak him onto the roster or something like that and not have to use an extra roster spot or something. They're spouting conspiracies in the F&M Bank chat this evening. So, Jake Downard saying, and he notes sarcastically, unbelievably tone-deaf to roll out a mayonnaise ad campaign, but refuse to put your body on the line for the team. SMH. But I do appreciate Jake for noting that he was being sarcastic. Because sometimes I love you guys, but a lot of you aren't.
Yeah. Yeah, important note there.
JR says, if Levis gets hurt as QB3, what does it matter? I'm guessing Vrabel thinks Willis is disposable. No, you're not going to try, Mike cut Jamarco Jones because he was slapping dudes after the whistle. You think he's going to intentionally put a quarterback in harm's way if he doesn't think he can, if it's not going to worsen the situation? It's ridiculousness to me. But that, whatever. You're entitled to your opinion. You can call in if you want to, and we can have this discussion if you like. Friday Fire, though, it's coming up next. Love a Friday afternoon. Fridays at 11:45 or just about. We do a segment presented by Central Barbecue. It means lunch is right around the corner. You know, I'm thinking about some Central Barbecue as well. It's called Friday Fire. The premise, real simple. What made you feel good in sports this week? What made you laugh? What gave you the warm and fuzzies? What did you enjoy? Let's do it.
Buck Rising is one of the least positive people on the planet. So to combat that, we've installed a new segment where he's forced to be positive. Sponsored by Central Barbecue. This is Friday Fire.
Because it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got shit to do.
National Sandwich Month at Central Barbecue. 5 sandwiches. If you eat 5 sandwiches throughout the course of the month, if you've eaten sandwiches so far at Central Barbecue, you can get your 6th one for free, conveniently located in Hillsborough Village. EatCBQ.com.
Does that still apply if you eat 5 sandwiches in one sitting?
Are you thinking of tempting fate?
I need somewhere to go to lunch today.
How many would you like to go to Central Barbecue?
Let's do it.
Okay. Well, I have a meeting at 1 o'clock. What are you doing? You're here for Blaine and Mickey, aren't you?
No, I will be back because I'm coming back for the game and then Titans talk back afterwards.
Okay. I'm still down to get lunch at Central Barbecue. So join us after the show at Central Barbecue. We're going to go to lunch there, apparently. Unless Lucas was saying he's going to lunch and wasn't inviting me, where it seems like that was heading, and I think I just invited myself to his lunch.
Yeah, I just didn't want to say it.
I'm sorry. Well, that's not my Friday Fire. Nor is the fact that the two of you are going on a road trip without me.
Road trip?
Yeah. Aren't you going to Alabama tomorrow?
Driving 90 minutes to Huntsville. It's hardly a road trip. That's the
it's only 90 minutes?
That's Joe Hunk's commute to work every day.
I thought Hunk was driving like 2.5 hours or something like that.
It's an hour and a half. Huntsville's like right on the border.
No, I had no idea.
We're going down for the Billy Strings concert tomorrow night. He played in Knoxville last night.
My Friday Fire, Titans have a home game. I like covering football games. It's my favorite part about the job. I have a great job. I think all of us who get to work in this industry and can do it in a way that's survivable, it's the best thing in the world. Same reason we go through the week of practice is to get to the games. It's going to be awesome to see you guys out there. The idea that they're going to play starters in this one, I think, is going to amp up the atmosphere a little bit. A Friday night at Nissan Stadium sounds like a fun one. I'm just excited to get back into the home press box, to be out there, to cover the games, to be around fans. It's just it's a good time, good vibes. And, the fact that you don't have to leave upset at the end of it because of a loss or, the highs and lows of what it normally is to experience a game at Nissan Stadium in the regular season. You can go out there, house money, enjoy yourselves.
There is a beauty to that. Very laid-back environment. You still get your football, but without the stress, which is nice.
D-Good says, Buck, your record in the last year for home Nashville events hasn't been great in the last year. You're right. They still have not won a home game since the November 17th streak started, but Titans winning in Minnesota did actively break the curse.
My Friday Fire has to go to the Nolensville Little Leaguers for the way they represented Tennessee again at the Little League World Series. They fell earlier this week, a 5-3 loss on Wednesday against the West Region champion California, just one game short of the United States semifinal up in Williamsport. But like I said, 3rd year in a row that this group with manager Randy Huth gets to Williamsport representing Tennessee in the Little League World Series. Stella Weaver, the only girl playing in this edition of the Little League World Series, playing for Nolensville. She tied the overall record for the most hits by a girl with her 4th, a single into right field against California the other day. 4 hits for Stella Weaver throughout this thing. It's just been cool over the last couple of years to see this group of kids come together and just year after year get up to Williamsport, get to play on an international stage, on national television. So Nolensville Little Leaguers, well done. Good job representing the Volunteer State, and you are my Friday Fire.
You know what else qualifies as Friday Fire? This is the last damn preseason game. Actual football. Vols at Nissan Stadium next Saturday, right?
Next Saturday.
That's wild.
11 a.m.
It doesn't feel real. Maybe because they're playing at Nissan instead of Neyland. It's just kind of weird. Yeah. Why, is there what's the logic again? Have we talked about this?
I don't know that anybody could. I mean, well, Mickey, we were talking about neutral sites in general yesterday, and Mickey, having been in an athletic department as an administrator, said the reason's always money, quite literally always money. But yeah, I don't know. Mickey was using it as a frame of reference from Arkansas State when Busch Stadium called when Arkansas State was going to do a home-and-home with Missouri and offer them a ton of money to come play the games at Busch Stadium, the home of the Cardinals. And so ultimately that usually is what the reason is. But yeah, Tennessee and Virginia are like Tennessee's going to have to go west and Virginia's going to have to basically go through Knoxville on the way to Nashville to come play Tennessee.
The answer to all of your questions, kids, always money, for better or worse. So yeah, Friday Fire, always a great time, presented by Central Barbecue. Looking forward to, again, I don't know what I want from Central Barbecue now that I'm thinking about it, whether I just want to go with the classic, the pulled pork sandwich. I am really, really a big fan of the whole smoked wings. I had not had whole chicken wings before until they had brought them to the studio a couple of weeks ago. I think it would be hard for me to pass up. Do you know what you want yet?
From Central Barbecue?
Yeah. I'm thinking about food. I didn't eat this morning. I'm hungry.
One of those sandwiches or 5.
Can we really try that? Would you eat 5 sandwiches and try to eat a 6? Would you be able to eat the 6th after you ate the 5?
I'm in.
All right, we'll test that experiment later. Central Barbecue for all of your food experimentation and Memphis-style competition barbecue needs. Fred in Franklin calling us from the aforementioned Nolensville. Hey, Fred.
Hey, you mentioned Nolensville a minute ago, but nobody mentioned that little McKenzie kid played a great game with a broken arm.
Oh, no, I had no idea. To be honest, and it's, a shameful admission. I've not paid attention to Little League World Series at all. Some kid played with a broken arm?
He's talking about Ty McKenzie Jr. Yes. Grit.
Oh, my God.
Grit.
Wait, how old are they?
Oh, at the risk of sounding like an idiot, 12, 11, 12 in that neighborhood?
I have no idea. I don't know anything about Little League sports. But playing with a broken arm. Oh, wow. That's going to piss some Titans fans off even more, the idea that Will Levis isn't playing with a mystery quad injury that continues to hold him out of practice. Anyway, 615-737-1045 is the number. Titans playing for their preseason lives. We'll give you some candidates. You'll hear from Mike Vrabel and a couple of other members of the football team coming up next.
It is 12 o'clock. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The Titans 2023 preseason will wrap up tonight at Nissan Stadium, hosting the New England Patriots. Titans Countdown hits the air at 6 p.m. It is a 7 p.m. kickoff with Mike Keith, Coach Mack, and the rest of the Titans radio crew. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reporting that quarterback Will Levis will not play tonight due to a quad injury. The 2023 college football season kicks off on Saturday. It is week 0. Vanderbilt hosting Hawaii at First Bank Stadium for a 6:30 kickoff. Notre Dame and Navy face off from Ireland at 1:30. Also on Saturday night, Nashville Soccer Club jumps back into MLS regular season play at Atlanta United. Kickoff from Mercedes-Benz Stadium is set for 6:30. Pregame coverage on The Zone begins at 6. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour on this game day. Welcome in. Hope you are having a tremendous Friday. Morale is high. 615-737-1045. Get in here. Talk some Titans if you want or anything else that's on your mind. But given that there is a game at Nissan Stadium in just a little more than 7 hours, I imagine that most of your thoughts are thinking about who's going to make your roster and who's not. Roster cutdown day not until Tuesday. So the ability for some players on the roster fringes to fight for their preseason lives. Who fits that description to you? 615-737-1045 is how you nominate a few. Lucas and I are going to go through some. You'll hear from Mike Vrabel on a couple. But I think that so if I say that to you, the player with their preseason life on the line, I'm going to count to 3, and then you yell a name that first comes to your mind. Ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3.
Caleb Murphy.
You think Caleb Murphy is more in danger of missing the roster than he is percentage chance to make the roster?
I don't know if I would put it that way.
Okay, well, I'm talking about
talking about guys that need to do something tonight in order to have
is their last night.
Then I changed my answer to Keiris Jackson.
Okay, I see that more fits the description because there's a degree of desperation around Keiris Jackson. I just wanted an example to work off for the audience.
Although Murphy, you're talking about sustaining something, right? But as far as just this is it, your final opportunity, and you have to make a mark to be given any consideration, then yes, 100% my answer is Keiris Jackson.
So, if Keiris Jackson is the example, right? Hurt, missed some time, got back out there at practice. So did Levis, by the way, on Wednesday. Doesn't guarantee that Keiris Jackson is going to play, but should he play, he is somebody whose preseason life is on the line. We asked Coach Mack earlier about the viability of Mason Kinsey, right? Numbers are already getting thin at wide receiver. Burks, not an extreme situation, but obviously not available. For how much longer remains to be seen. Phillips sounds like a longer period of time that he's going to miss with that MCL injury. So you're down 2 of your 3 top wide receivers for the immediate, and the immediate being Tuesday at roster cutdown day. So now you got to get creative with your wide receiver math. To my logic, that would present an opportunity that might not have otherwise been there for wide receiver 6 or 7 on this depth chart. And who fits that mold? I think, so like an example that I bet I'm going to hear from some people, and I don't want to take your answers if you would prefer to submit them in the F&M Bank chat or via the phones. But like, Racey McMath does not fit this category to me. I am of the opinion, and I don't know what's going to happen with Racey. I don't know for sure what's going to happen with Racey. They may not either just yet. But I'm of the opinion that there's not really anything Racey McMath can do tonight that's going to make me think he needs to make this roster. Like, I'm largely going into tonight, and maybe that's, maybe I shouldn't have that bias. Maybe I should let the results play out as they will. But, like, there's nothing that Racy has done that makes me think he's on the same plane as even a Kearis Jackson for guys who would be in better position to make the roster than not. Like, I think Kearis Jackson, should he play, is in a better position, not just because maybe the coaching staff likes him or something like that, but because he does two things. He plays wide receiver, and he returns.
And Phillips is injured.
Right.
Like, that is as big of a factor as anything.
And Phillips' injury is more long-term than somebody who Racy would be an injured, an option for in the case of Burks. Kearis Jackson, Mason Kinsey are more likely to be the Phillips emergency option.
Like, that door is open. Somebody just needs to step into it and slam it behind them.
So by that logic, I don't think Racy fits this, like, fighting for their preseason lives. I'm kind of thinking that Racy's preseason life may already be, at least here. Maybe not practice squad. We'll see. But, like, initial 53, I don't think so.
So is that the name that you would have said on the count of three, Kearis Jackson?
No, it's Mason Kinsey. I think it's Mason Kinsey.
Fighting for the same spot.
Fighting for, yes, correct. And I don't know, because, like, Kinsey, so by the same logic, could you cut Racy and sneak him through on waivers? Probably. Could you cut Mason Kinsey and sneak him through on waivers? Probably. Kearis Jackson, I don't know that that's going to be the answer. Now, the injury may help them finagle something, right?
And we don't even know for sure that he's healthy enough to play tonight, right?
No, again, I say Levis also practiced on Wednesday, as did Kearis Jackson. That does not, by any stretch of the imagination, Levis is already reportedly not going to play. So Kearis Jackson may not be available to them tonight, and that, that argument may be null and void, which, again, opens up the door for Mason Kinsey. But could Kinsey clear waivers? Probably. And they could put him back on the practice squad and not need to use a 53-man roster spot, because as we were changing shifts, Blaine and Mickey and myself, Blaine and I were talking about this. I don't know if you caught any of it because we weren't doing it in front of microphones. But Blaine's question to me was, well, is he better? And the answer is probably no. Like, he's probably, like, Mason Kinsey, reliable, willing, all these things. Is he better as a player
than Kearis Jackson? Or than Mason Kinsey of last year?
Mason Kinsey of last year, improved. Has he improved? Has he developed? Is there anything beyond the current Mason Kinsey experience that can be expected of Mason Kinsey? And the answer, as an undrafted rookie free agent out of a D3 college, is probably no. And that's okay. Because he's had, I think this is training camp 4 for that dude. That's wild. Wild that he would last that long. So, and maybe that's the extent of what the ceiling or roster potential for him is. Is he an improved version of the player who's been here for the past couple years? You probably argue no. But I do think that there's a trust element to him that might Julius Chestnut his way onto an initial 53. Doesn't mean he's there for the year. Just means he's there on Tuesday. Because Julius Chestnut, remember, was the surprise of last year. They had, I think, 4 running backs. And I think Torrey Carter?
Yep, the fullback out of LSU.
I'm pretty sure they had 4 and then Torrey Carter before Kevin Rader came into the equation and made Carter expendable. And Julius Chestnut obviously did not end the season. Well, actually, I can't remember if Chestnut was on the end of season roster, but, like, there was a point in time where Chestnut's 53-man roster time had expired after making the initial cut, and then, practice squad option to use at will. So I think that Mason Kinsey is probably mine. And even then, I'm kind of reticent to say Mason Kinsey because the argument against him is the one that I've just made, is he's probably going to be able to clear waivers.
Yeah, and he's just such a good practice. He's everything you want in a practice squad player, right?
Yeah, because he's a wide receiver that is willing to play safety when you need him to play safety.
He'll do anything.
Anything?
Anything.
Anything? I didn't realize Mason Kinsey had it like that. Including playing emergency quarterback with a day's notice to run 1 rep that he he got cut from his high school football team because he couldn't run their option.
No, he didn't get cut. He just didn't win the quarterback job.
The quarterback job, correct.
He didn't get cut from his high school football team.
You're right. That was extreme. My bad.
And I don't even think it was high school. I think it was like 8th grade or something.
Oh, really? Okay, then I have all of the details on that story wrong. That's my fault. JR says, keep Roberson and Harrison. What has Harrison done? There's nothing there to Harrison, and like Roberson didn't do anything worth a damn in the preseason game.
You know who could box out Mason Kinsey or Karis Jackson?
Who?
Eric Garrer. Talking about a guy coming from a completely different position. I wonder, how many those guys are all. I wonder if they're all walking up to the Titans defense. The guys that are going to be playing tonight, like, guys, force some punts tonight. All right, we need them.
I need you.
Yeah, we need at least
possessions.
6 punt opportunities tonight to split between us, because Eric Garrer, Karis Jackson, Mason Kinsey have all been out there returning punts throughout the preseason.
That's the correlation between the three of them. That's why we're talking about them for one roster spot, because Phillips is down. It's 2 jobs that you're missing, wide receiver and returner, but returner is something they need to figure out.
And if Eric Garrer, who has been flying around on defense with the threes when he's been out there in the preseason, and if he can make an impact on special teams and they feel good about this guy as a punt returner, then that could cost one of Kinsey or Jackson or both their jobs.
He's so small.
Because their impact is going to be in special teams. He is.
But he cracks.
He's so likable. Yeah, that 5'8" frame out of Louisiana Lafayette, just flying around in the preseason.
Have you heard him talk yet?
Yeah, I heard him chatting with Titans Radio last week.
Oh, were they? It's the first time I'd talked to him and was in the locker room after Minnesota. And a lot of times I'm walking around with the PR staff, because like the undrafted dudes, you don't know what they look like once they take their like equipment off and they don't have their numbers on their chest and stuff like that. So I'm, it's always a little awkward being like, "Are you Eric?" Coming up to Eric Garrer after he just, played the preseason game of his life or something like that, and asking him questions like, do you have returning experience? Like, yeah, I did at Louisiana. I was like, "Oh, my bad, bud." I'm just, just trying to figure it out.
But he's definitely fighting for his preseason life. Eric Garrer.
Yes, Garrer is a great nominee. Garrer is a really, really solid one. 44. Guy's been playing backup safety. A lot of backup safety. Safety depth is something that's going to be continued to be discussed, with Elijah Molden factoring into that equation. Of course, the 2 top end guys is Mike Brown.
Is it Mike Brown?
I think it's Mike Brown.
Don't have my practice sheet in front of me.
Okay. Big Country says, is Haskins cut yet? No, but he's also been unavailable. Like he's in this Monty Rice limbo where Haskins has not been back at practice. I mean, he hasn't. It's like Monty. I don't think either of them have practiced really since the Chicago game.
Yeah, Brown is 44.
Okay. Yeah, so Mike Brown is another one that comes to mind. Safety, special teams. Can you find a way to get on the roster? 615-737-1045. We have some calls on the game itself. And on this upcoming Titan season, we'll get to those momentarily. We'll also talk about Titans players that we think have made a sufficient enough case heading into Friday's preseason action. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. Titans play the Pats tonight, preseason finale. Who's got their preseason lives on the line? Lucas going Kearis Jackson, if he plays. That's unknown. Will Levis, reportedly not playing. My expectation is we'll see Ryan Tannehill. Do you have any concern about Levis? Because, like, I was asking you during the commercial break, do you think I've been overly dismissive of people lately? And I really am trying to have just better tone generally. But do you think that I'm being dismissive of people who say that we should care more about the idea that Levis is not playing tonight? I personally think that if he's hurt and they don't want to play him, I'm fine with that. But do you feel that we maybe are treating that with enough importance, given that he is the second round pick and that people are caught up in quarterback stuff right now? Or, are you just kind of like shoulder shrug, whatever?
No, I mean, you are very quick to remind people that you don't care about what you're watching. But the people that are listening have an emotional investment. And it's totally fair to be frustrated.
I didn't say I don't care about what I'm watching. I said I don't care.
You quite literally said that last year. You almost exactly said that last year.
What do you mean?
Remember after Buffalo? It was very poorly phrased by you. It was like a tweet that you were like, you guys don't understand. We literally don't care about any of this. Talking about just Titans media as a whole. Oh. When somebody went at y'all for not asking Vrabel a certain question that a fan wanted to hear asked, and it was something to the nature of, y'all don't understand that we literally don't care about anything that's happening.
I mean, it does not.
Which was not the right way to say it.
Yeah, I should have phrased it better.
I went at you for it on the air the next day. It was after the blowout loss in Buffalo. But
we had nothing else to talk about because they lost 41-7.
But yeah, people are frustrated. We had this entire battle. Everything was set up for this backup quarterback battle behind the second-round pick Will Levis and the third-round pick Malik Willis. And like I said before, it's just anticlimactic.
Yes.
It happens. One of them got hurt. But it's frustrating that you didn't get to learn more about the investment that you made at the quarterback position earlier this year.
Sure. And I'm trying not to, because the chat is caught up in it. I know the chat is, and I love you guys, but it's a fraction of the people, a very, very small fraction of the people that actually consume the radio show through some platform or another. And the chat is so caught up in the idea that something has to be going on. Mike Vrabel has to be giving Malik Willis to put all the opportunities on tape humanly possible because they're going to cut him. Or Mike Vrabel has already decided that Malik Willis is going to be the backup quarterback and doesn't like Levis or something like that. There's all manner, people can't wrap their heads around. It's just, it is what it is. It's an unfortunate situation. It's poorly timed, and he's not available to play in 2 preseason games.
And what I don't understand is the amount of people talking about acting like, Levis has to tough this out and has to play through it. Jay on the FNN Bank chat asked me, do you actually believe Levis couldn't play tonight? I don't understand what incentive the coaching staff would have.
None.
If it's something that he could easily play through.
Could he play through it? Sure.
What incentive would they have, though, to put him out there? I don't know.
None.
Or I said that wrong. What incentive would they have to hold him back if he can play through it?
Hold him back? Oh, I mean, that you wouldn't want to aggravate whatever it is or exacerbate whatever it is or put him in harm's way unintentionally. There is harm associated with playing quarterback. If you feel if it affects his mobility, and I don't know that it does. I'm just saying, if you're asking for an explanation, what would be a reason to hold him back? Well, if he can't move and he's back there behind backup offensive linemen and he's just getting crushed, right? Does that make sense? And I'm not saying that that's the case. I don't know.
We don't know the severity.
Don't know the severity.
This idea that, it's just a boo-boo, Levis, you got to play through it, show up for your team. I just don't. If it was something that minor, what incentive would they have to hold him out? I don't get it. They would just be costing themselves more looks at Will Levis. That doesn't make any sense to me.
He's quarterback 3 in preseason game 3.
Jay says to showcase Malik, that would be the incentive for trade value or determining Malik's future.
I mean, no.
I just can't envision a scenario where they're holding back.
Who's trading for Malik Willis? Yeah, he's better, but who is offering you anything of consequence that would make it worth your while to get rid of quarterback depth on a rookie contract? Now, if they're done with the experiment, and I don't know that they're done with the experiment, but if they're done with the experiment, they cut Malik Willis, they keep Will Levis, and they bring in a veteran. That's not going to surprise me.
Preseason is not the time to buck up and play through an injury for your football team. No matter what year, what level you are.
If you're in danger of missing the cut and you think there's something to show the coaching staff, toughness, availability, all these things, that's not the case for him.
No, not
He's
at all.
in.
Not at all.
He's got it. And if you want him to showcase some kind of mental fortitude that you demand of your players, even though most of us are down for the count for an hour after we stub our toe, like that's just always, it's always crazy to me. I understand that their jobs are different than yours and that their job requires physical and mental toughness. Not for this. It's not worth it.
Just going after a guy for not playing through something when you have no idea what the extent of the injury is, it makes no sense.
Because it's not, well, Tennessee Backroad says, especially when Jim Wyatt says they're keeping 3. I mean, Jimmy and I talk about this on our pregame hit. At least in the first week, I was convinced they were keeping 3. I'm not necessarily as I think there's more likely that they're all 3 here than not.
Levis not being able to play in preseason games 2 and 3 just strengthened that.
Yes, for sure.
The thing that would have caused the Titans to keep 2 would have been Will Levis flat out beating out Malik, would it not? I mean, that is the most clear-cut path to the Titans having 2 quarterbacks on cut day coming up on Tuesday. Tuesday,
3.
August 29th.
That's when they have to be. Well, that's when everything has to be submitted. It'll be done, Monday.
Yeah, that
Tuesday.
That Black Monday, so to speak.
It's a different kind of a
Black Monday is when all the coaches are getting fired at the end of the season, right?
This is still kind of a Black Monday.
It's like that for players.
This is a bigger Black Monday because it's 37 players on 37 times 32.
A lot more casualties.
Yeah. What's that math?
Not doing that.
Logan in Nashville is up first. Hey, Logan.
Hey, how you doing, guys? Y'all having a good day?
We sure are.
Cool. Well, we're talking about roster construction and all this stuff, and I think, yes, like people just having realistic versus unrealistic expectations, and that's kind of what my question is in regards to this season. Like, what do you think is, what's a reasonable expectation for the Titans win-loss record this season? I mean, do they have a real chance to win the division, based on their talent as they're currently constructed?
Oh, yeah, I'd say. I think the offensive line, do they have a shot at winning the division? Yeah. I give them a shot to win the division. Sure.
I expect them to be in play for the AFC South throughout the course of the season.
Yeah, it's a bad division. The competition is, the primary competition is Jacksonville. Jacksonville is in better position to win the AFC South, but Jacksonville is also playing a first-place schedule, which is not an easy thing to overcome. Tennessee and Jacksonville are probably going to be in it late, right? And I think my biggest issue, my biggest reason to doubt them this year is the offensive line unit. I think this season, I don't want to say the season goes as they go because the season goes as Ryan Tannehill goes.
Yeah, but it's all related.
It's
fair to say the offense will go as far as the offensive line can take them.
We'll let them.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. That's the key. We've talked about that. That's the key to the season in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think there's enough there. I think the Hopkins thing makes me feel a lot more confident in that. Had Hopkins not been here, I would probably have been a bit more dismissive of them. But yeah, I think they're totally capable of competing, and they're always going to play above their heads in certain circumstances, and they're going to lose games that you hate because they shouldn't lose to the team that they ended up losing to that day, right? There's always going to be moments like that in an NFL season. Do you remember who the Colts beat last year? Of the 4 games that the Colts won, do you remember who one of those teams were?
The
Chiefs.
That's right. In overtime. In overtime. That game was almost a tie.
So,
it was early season.
Tino859 says, yes, we are the favorites. Buck is just a hater. No, literally nobody is picking you as the division favorite. Yeah. If any sports book is going to tell you the Jags. So, no, I'm not being a hater. I'm literally looking at the betting odds. But, yeah, Indianapolis beat the Super Bowl champions last year. They beat the Chiefs in overtime. Stuff like that happens in the NFL all the time. I hate cliches. Any given Sunday is real. It's a real thing that happens. So are they capable? Sure. I think they're more than capable. Will they do it? I don't know. We'll see how the season plays out. James in Lafayette next. Hey, James.
Hey, guys. How's it going today?
Great.
Hey, man, we talking about Mason Kinsey and Malik. Y'all listen to what this guy right here is saying. Malik next year is going to be the starter for the Tennessee Titans. I've seen such a growth in that kid from last year to this year. You know, I think Willis's footwork's a little bit quicker and faster, and his ball release is quicker and faster. But, man, you could see it in Malik's eyes. He's hungry to learn, and he's learning. I mean, I think he's done good through the preseason. And Mason Kinsey, man, he's like a little cat receiver. He makes plays, and, yeah, I think he's – to me, if I was a general manager, Westbrook Akini would be gone. He's dropping way too many balls. But if y'all just listen, though, Malik's going to be the starter next year.
Okay. That's when's Call Your Shot? What time is that?
2:45. Okay. I'm Blaine and Mickey.
You can call back and give that one a 2:45. I don't know. I mean, like, if you weren't listening to the first hour, not all of you listen to all 3 hours of the radio show, that's fine. You can go listen to the podcast with Greg Cosell. We're not going to play the whole 2-minute clip for you again, but Greg basically said, yeah, he got a lot worse from game 1 to game 2 in the preseason. Malik, specifically.
Which was interesting because our overall takeaway was it kind of stayed the same, right? It was sort of a straight line. Is that not what we kind of said, that we saw a lot of the same in Minnesota as we saw in Chicago?
Well, if you remember, I mentioned a couple of different mechanical breakdowns that I noticed in Minnesota that I didn't see in Chicago. But, yeah, on the whole, like, when you asked me the question, or I think however we framed the question, did I feel any better, worse, or the same about Malik? I largely came out of that feeling the same.
Yeah.
Now, Greg looks at it differently. We've talked about the different ways that Titans media is going to evaluate Malik Willis versus the way that a talent evaluator who has no skin in the game, like Cosell, is going to look at Malik Willis. We're looking at Malik Willis based on the curve of Malik Willis. Greg's looking at Malik Willis and saying, no, that guy can't play in an NFL game. He's passing up throws, and he may be more decisive as a runner, but that's not an option. Like, that's not a real thing for him to be able to traffic in that's going to give them the best opportunity, the most competitive roster at quarterback to win a game.
A lot of people in the F&M Bank chat are asking what it would take for the Titans to have two quarterbacks for it to be Tannehill Levis on roster cut day. Like, how bad would it have to be for Malik tonight?
I don't even think it. Like, if that's the case, that's been decided. Like, if that happens, it's really not going to have that much to do with tonight. Like, that's the reality of the third preseason game. There's a little more seriousness to it because it's not like 4 where you're just where there was 4 preseason games and you're basically just punting on the last one and getting everybody who hasn't played a snap of the preseason out there. There's still a more dress rehearsal element to it. But I think a lot of decisions, largely, the roster has been decided upon. The initial roster has largely been decided upon prior to tonight's events. Specific to quarterback, that's even more so. So if Malik is already out, or if Malik is out, he's already out. We just don't know it yet. I tend to think that he'll make it, but yeah, I don't think it's really like. I mean, it would have to be some kind of catastrophe.
Yeah, if he really bottomed out tonight, you're telling me we wouldn't be having the conversation on Monday?
I mean, would we be having the conversation is different as to what they do with him. We would absolutely have the conversation. We would absolutely debate the merits of keeping Malik Willis on the roster, especially if he's going to be the one trusted with the backup quarterback situation. Barring, outright catastrophe or injury, I tend to think Malik is there on Tuesday. Rick in Hendersonville is next. Hey, Rick.
Guys, about this situation with Levis, and I say situation because he is getting some real hate out there from people calling in, from people Twittering about, well, you play through an injury. I think the biggest frustration out there is with Vrabel in not actually stating what the injury is. Is it a low ankle sprain? Is it a high ankle sprain? Is it continual cramping in the calf? Is it a knee injury, a shin bruise? Nobody knows. So until Vrabel actually says this is what's wrong with him, this upper body, lower body sucks. That's what I got.
Well, I don't even think Mike gave. Did Mike say even lower body? I think we had to. I think that was some, intrepid reporting by Tehran or something like that.
Some sleuthing. Yeah. No,
we couldn't even get lower body. Just that he was taken out of practice.
We've seen quad, and that hasn't come from the Titans. That's come from Liam Cohen speaking with Kentucky media, mentioning that Will Levis told him it was a quad, and Jeremy Fowler put the quad in parentheses when he reported that Will Levis would be out tonight. So we've seen quad from everybody but the Titans themselves.
Well, and this goes back to the idea of because why do they do it? They do it because Vrabel thinks it's a means of protection for them. He doesn't do timelines. He doesn't talk about injuries. It just if he's not willing to deal with it on any level, then at some point he's going to wear us down, right? And we're going to stop asking. Now, we don't stop asking is his problem, and you guys don't stop wanting to know. But his logic is that eventually, if he just stops answering the question in any meaningful way and goes with unavailable, then that will be our expectation. Now, we're still going to ask the question because maybe, just maybe, because he wasn't even the only reason we knew that Levis had been taken out of practice at all is because I can't remember who it was in Minnesota asked a question about Levis in the preseason game, and Vrabel, assuming that we saw, said that he had been taken out of practice and his status for Minnesota was questionable. We've had the discussion before. Does it indeed put more pressure on them, even though he is trying to protect them? Because with no information, it leads to speculation, whether that's, in media or on the internet where these guys are perpetually online. I mean, I don't know that there's a good answer, right? It's well-intended. It drives fans crazy. It doesn't necessarily bother me as much anymore because, I know what it is going in, or not know what the injury is going in, but, I know what it is going to be with Vrabel going in, so I'm just kind of all right, whatever. But, it's definitely a far departure from Mike Mularkey, who used to straight up give us timelines. DeMarco Murray hit 10 weeks, and, and basically outline what it is that they were going to do with him and when they were targeting his return date and stuff. I don't know that players appreciated that. The way that, and, Lewan has always been overly opinionated, but the way that Taylor Lewan talks about Mike Mularkey and the way that Mularkey might have handled Lewan's concussion situation during that time frame, it doesn't sound like that same feeling was there for the previous head coach. So I think the players do appreciate it, and as long as Mike's getting what he needs to or getting as long as they're seeing the value in what Vrabel is doing, then that's all that Mike cares about. He doesn't care about anything else. 615-737-1045 is the number. Last call for phone calls. We'll update the poll. Oh, we didn't do the players that have made their case. Do you think there's a player who's going to play substantial snaps tonight that's already made their case? Roster lock. And I'm not talking about Tajay Spears. I'm not talking about Peter Skoronski, dudes who are going to make it. Dudes who we are not 100% certain are going to make it, but that we feel pretty good about their chances.
Then that's where I'd put Caleb Murphy.
I agree.
Who's made his case as a pass rusher, setting the edge. I think I'd put Caleb Murphy there.
Can I hear from Arden Key on Caleb Murphy? Arden Key was on the radio show on Tuesday, and I thought he gave a really good answer about the idea of being a natural-born pass rusher. And the fact that we didn't play this Brian Baldinger audio for you. We used it on the primetime show last night because it's a visual. But Brian Baldinger, NFL Network, did a Baldy breakdown and kind of showcased for you Caleb Murphy's pass rush plan. Here's Arden Key on the.
He's a pass rusher. He's a natural-born pass rusher. He wants to learn. He talk it if he has a lot of questions. But he just stayed the course. To me, he just stayed the course. He come out every day working, every day wanting to learn. But like I said, you got to give it to him. He's a natural pass rusher. He came in knowing how to pass rush. I mean, he holds the record in college football of the most sacks in a season.
Does he talk about that a lot?
No, not really. No, not really. But I mean. No matter what school you went to, if you got those many sacks, then you can pass rush. So he's getting better. He's a different player than he was at OTA. The first game was a little rough for him. It was a little fast for him. Legs was dead a little bit, but he picked it up and came back the next game, ready to go.
So Arden Key speaking on Caleb Murphy, and go watch that Baldy breakdown on Caleb Murphy specifically. I think it's at Baldy NFL because he shows you how Caleb Murphy, as an undrafted rookie free agent, already has a pass rush plan. And if you're not aware of what I mean by when I say pass rush plan, Baldinger will articulate it for you in a better way than I could. Basically, how you time and mix and match your pass rush moves to better affect the quarterback. It's good stuff. All right, last call for phone calls. Polls, Blaine and Mickey, coming up next. Boogie Shoes. Week is over for us. Well, I guess not quite yet. We got a long work night ahead of us, bud. You ready?
Let's do it. Let's wrap this thing up and play some real football in 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
In 1 week, even.
In 1 week, even. Not even that. There'll be football down the street in just a few short hours. Vanderbilt and Hawaii getting things started in SEC play, or at least one side of the SEC play. Meanwhile, speaking of the SEC, if you have not yet gotten your tickets for Tennessee hosting Virginia at Nissan Stadium, or I guess it's a neutral site game, but one would imagine that there would be a fair amount of orange.
Not going to be very neutral.
I can't imagine. You can get sweet tickets for the UT Virginia game that include food and beverage. All you need to do is call our great sales manager here at the Zone, Dave Elliott. His number, 615-312-3502 for more information. So if you haven't gotten tickets yet, you're thinking about a little sweet life, little food, little cocktail service, great opportunity to enjoy the Vols game in comfort. 615-312-3502 for your opportunity to get involved with a Nissan Stadium suite situation. We did not bring up Michael Badgley, Money Badger. Kicker tonight. Guys fighting for their preseason lives. Is that not the definition of your boy Money Badger? I think that I know they continue to consider other kicking options. Could Michael Badgley come out there and replicate a performance? He had a really, really nice day on Wednesday. Missed one. It was from 53. That's, I'm good with that. Like 50 plus, if that's the only place where on any given day of practice, I think that's completely fair for Michael Badgley's only miss of the day to come for 53 yards. He did not have a good outing in the first day of practice. He was 9 of 13, 4 missed kicks, unacceptable in a practice setting. Game situation, he's the only kicker on the roster. It's your job or somebody else's, bud. Go out there and take it. I think Michael Badgley is for sure on the fighting for his preseason life qualification.
That's going to be one position to watch when it comes to transactions around roster cut day. Seeing who comes available.
You think there's a vet? I mean, I guess we could talk about this on Monday. Maybe this is a subject for Monday. But like a vet who we may not expect to be out on the streets after this. Like we're talking about UDFAs and journeyman kickers and things like that. We'll do that Monday because roster cuts are, of course, on Tuesday. Okay, should we do some polls?
Zoinks, like, hey, Scoop, stop the count, Yeah. The polls have closed. The votes are in. It's time for a poll update, Scoop. A poll update? Yeah. Zoinks, Scoop. Here's Buck Rising Show daily correspondent Lucas Panzica. Lucas Panzica? Yeah.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, who sells below MSRP on any non-specialty. New Ford, who is further along in their development, Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett? 88% say Kenny Pickett, and 100% were not happy with the question.
What is wrong with you?
I don't understand why it would have been that much better to put Desmond Ridder in there. Like, the answer is obviously Kenny Pickett.
Desmond Ridder is the middle ground. At least there would have been some difference between extremes that you set me up for failure. You did it on purpose, and you know damn well you did.
Why is Desmond Ridder the middle ground?
Because he's literally in a middle developmental stage between Pickett and Willis.
We know nothing about Desmond Ridder and what his development has been so far. We have a few preseason snaps.
Oh, no. He played in the regular season last year. Like, I'm not saying that last year's Desmond Ridder is going to be this year's Desmond Ridder, but I feel like I know more about the capabilities of Desmond Ridder than I do Malik Willis, don't you?
Kenny Pickett looks really good.
Kenny Pickett looks good.
Yeah. Turns out that small hands, not that big a deal.
Just don't try the Whopper.
Which Titans fringe player, they make a junior Whopper for that.
Do they?
Which Titans fringe player most needs a big performance tonight? Kenneth says it's Malik.
Yeah,
I don't know if he most needs it.
I don't think he most needs it. I just think, would it be nice if you got, I know many of you wanted the payoff in Minnesota of him going out there and winning the backup quarterback job definitively, and you did not get that. In fact, you got a worse performance than you did from him in Chicago. Does he go out there and do it tonight? I mean, if for no other reason by default, maybe you'd like Levis to be healthy just to keep some more pressure on him. I don't know if he works that way, but, this is the kind of situation that they're going to work through. I just think all three of them are there at the end of the day.
Zach gives one on each side of the ball. Mason Kinsey on offense, who we've talked about. Otis Reese on defense.
OTIS, huh? Monty Rice isn't going to get cut, is he?
He has been a
non-factor.
Yeah, I was about to say non-factor.
What, did you think that was too extreme? You prefer me be the extreme?
But I was going to ask if it was too extreme because admittedly I'm not, I haven't been at every single practice and we're up there broadcasting. So I hate making these blanket statements a lot of times when I have not seen every snap at practice, but we just have not talked about Monty Rice at all. And the worst part is there is so much opportunity to be had in that inside linebacker room. And Jack Gibbons has been the one to seize that alongside Azeez.
I mean, they basically turned the whole group over. I mean, Gibbons and Chance Campbell were here last year, but I think for the most part, turn that whole group over and still Monty Rice couldn't get a job.
Yeah. Which Titans fringe player do you feel best about making the roster? Just Morris says Colton Dow.
No.
Practice squad.
I don't think so. Yeah, practice squad.
And that's okay.
Oh, sure.
He's a 7th-round wide receiver out of UT Martin.
God, what a roller coaster ride the Colton Dow expectation experience has been.
Yeah. Big Chig Energy says Caleb Murphy.
I think that Caleb Murphy, they just don't keep more than three outside linebackers. There has to be some part of Mike Vrabel that says I would rather have more pass rushers than not. I don't think that dude's getting through on waivers.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Caleb Murphy could just be dominant in the preseason, and if he can't perform in the run game and set the edge, it doesn't matter, right? But he has been doing those things.
He's a more developed player than previous fringe edge rushers that we've seen in years past. He's more developed than is Sam O, for example.
Yeah. Olivia says Eric Garrer has made a good case for himself.
He has made a good case for himself. I just don't know that it'll be enough. I bet Garrer plays a ton tonight. I don't think that necessarily means he's making the roster.
Those are the polls.
All right. People keep trying to get this nickname for Chestnut off the ground in the chat, and I refuse to do it. I just won't.
Does Mac Jones play tonight, we think?
Giardi didn't seem to think so. Mike Giardi of the Boston Sports Journal. Mike seems to think it's going to be Bailey Zappi.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
The Western Kentucky legend.
The return home.
Comes home.
Almost home. We could have had Kentucky against Western Kentucky, but sadly, we'll be deprived. It's going to do it for us this afternoon. Blaine and Mickey going to keep the conversation going. 3HL's got your pregame coverage. No lead company countdown to kickoff for me, Blaine, Mickey, and Kayla tonight, but I will see you and talk to many of you at Nissan Stadium. If I don't, have a great weekend.